Howdy, and welcome to the Feed Bandit podcast, where we talk all things hunting and introduce you to innovative hunting products and services. If you want to level up your hunting game and gear, be sure to join the hunt. To join the hunt, text the word BANDIT to 345-345. And when you do, you'll join our email list, where we'll send killer deals on innovative hunting products and services, along with entertaining tips and tricks straight to your inbox. Again, text the word BANDIT to 345-345, and we look forward to seeing you on the hunt. Well, howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast. Jimmy here. As always, the Corn Bandit Richard is right here with me. How you doing, sir?
Technically, I'm not right there with you, but
well, you know,
I'm with you
figuratively, not physically, but
yes, and spurred. I'm always with you.
Spirit over the airwaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, I here on the Feed Bandit podcast, we talk about so many fun things. We interview so many great people. This has been a real fun experience, but we in order to boost our ratings, we really want to dive into some very controversial topics.
So we want to get some people agreeing and possibly disagreeing with us?
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
I'm gonna get some hate mail. No. I think this will be the first of our brand new series, the controversial topics of hunting, and we might get into gun control and things of that nature. So
we can call it hunting controversies.
That's right. So part one, I think we'll talk about something that's, I think, near and dear to our heart, and that's baiting. Baiting is a part of Texas deer hunting. It's been that way since the beginning, and I don't see it changing.
No.
And I think that's a great thing. For a number of different reasons, but unfortunately there are a lot of folks out there, and our fellow hunters who think that hunting over a corn feeder is unfair. They think that, and of course a lot of the folks that don't hunt in general say, "Oh God, how could you sit there with a high-powered rifle where you can see 9/4 of a mile and then shoot that poor innocent deer?" Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, first of all, you best get out of here because we're about to tango. But no, there are, in my opinion, there are definitely more pros to being able to bait during hunting season than there are cons. And just for the fun of it, I think let's talk about the cons first.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's talk about why we shouldn't bait first.
Right.
Or why people think we shouldn't bait first.
Right. Right. What I think really one of the only, to me, one of the only arguments that really holds water about not baiting, or the reason why you would not bait is the whole CWD. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
CWD. Thank you. Okay, chronic wasting disease.
Yep.
Yeah, there has been. It was a couple of months ago now that there was. There was some talk, and of course it hit a pandemic. Somebody in the upper echelons of Texas Parks and Wildlife mentioned something about potentially banning, being able to hunt over bait for whitetail deer, and it just sent up a firestorm of backlash.
It'd be like a revolution.
Oh my God, it would be horrible. I mean, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria. Right.
Yeah, it would be terrible. But I think that they're thinking behind that is when you have a bunch of animals that congregated, in a certain area, then that's where you breed disease and things of that nature. And there's no doubt that disease and infection, or not, I guess not infection, but diseases are spread within, deer herds. I remember last year, in fact, it was about this time. I don't know if you remember, Jimmy, we pulled a velvet 10-point out of the house tank there at the Rancho Bandito. Why'd he die? We don't know, but we got to assume that it could be, maybe something with stagnant water. It could be blue tongue. It could be something of that nature. Obviously, it's not CW. Yeah,
right.
CWD. God, I can't. I need like a cheat sheet here because I keep second guessing myself. But really, that would be really kind of one of my only real legitimate reasons why I wouldn't want to bait. If they came out with proof positive, man, this is killing deer, then it's spreading, so on and so forth. Okay, then yeah, maybe we definitely shouldn't bait. For the smaller critters too. They're corn. And our good friend at Peace Plus would agree with us. Baiting with corn does have aflatoxins in it. And then the higher the aflatoxin count in your corn, it can be deadly. Now I know that a lot of the corn, producers and baggers and sellers and all the other Ellers that are involved in the process are really taking that to heart and are testing it and making sure that especially if you're feeding corn, that's not going to be a problem. So,
what about the maybe the objection that, well, you don't want to get the deer, used to or a habit or reliant upon, your feed because this, that, and the other. They need to be sustained on the natural forage, foliage, blah 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 blah.
No, totally agree.
I mean, I could see where people are coming from on that, but at the same time,
totally,
if you do it right, you're not. They're not going to, because they can't really sustain themselves necessarily on corn.
No,
right? I mean,
it's starch
and protein. I mean, protein, just like with humans. I mean, if you're a bodybuilder, you're going to get your creatine, right?
Right,
or whatever your protein.
Yeah, I mean, look at my body. I'm a pure protein. I mean, it's a different podcast.
Different type of bodybuilding, is that?
Yeah. Damn it. Yeah.
So I mean, I can see where that's coming from, I guess. What do you think about that?
No, it's actually a very, 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 very good point. And that's one of the big reasons why people are, park rangers and whatnot in national forests are real big about, not feeding the, feeding the mule deer your leftover salad, because, when it gets really miserably cold and there's 90 feet of snow, your salad's not going to be there for them. In Texas, I don't think that necessarily holds a lot of water because, we've always, in most parts of the state, maybe not so much in the panhandle. Okay, if it snows, of course it's going to melt in a couple of days. The deer have got their, the forage that, that grows during that time of year. So you've got your winter forbs. Now, of course, in the winter after big freezes, the fall forbs are gonna die off, and they're gonna go to leftover acorns and bark and whatever else. But I can see some validity in that argument. If you're up in just use an extreme one here, North Dakota. All right. So yeah. I mean, you're out there in North Dakota, you're getting 30 feet of snow. You know what? Those deer might, after a while, get used to going to that deer feeder. And if that thing doesn't spin, I mean, who knows, Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good point you make, but I still don't. I don't think it's much of an argument down here. That's for sure.
I think right now is a good time to kind of make a distinction between, when we use the word baiting, that can mean a lot of things.
Yes.
Right? So if there's people that aren't used to hunting in Texas or even kind of surrounding states of Texas that, they're like, well, so what do we actually mean by baiting? I mean, it's, there's different, I guess, levels.
Right.
You could say, and of course each state kind of has their own regulations as far as timing, and and then when you're hunting, can it be there? Does it have to be gone? Does the bait have to be gone after a certain period of time? There's a lot of different different kind of varieties, if you will, amongst the states of what they allow, how they allow you to hunt over baits and things of that nature.
once you give the people who maybe aren't familiar with, I guess, the freedom that we have down here in Texas,
Right.
if that's the way to put it,
It is.
what we can do here that maybe a lot of other states can't.
Right. Yeah. So down here in Texas, we are basically free to bait any of our native game. Okay. So white-tailed deer, mule deer, obviously any of the exotics such as wild hogs or axis deer, or even elk. We are allowed to have a bait station. And of course, the intent of that bait is to draw an animal in so you can harvest it. That's easy peasy. All right. Now, the only thing we cannot bait in Texas is obviously going to be your migratory birds. So your ducks, geese, cranes, and dove. Which that really sucks. I would love to be able to to bait, but obviously you can't. And there's a reason for that, obviously. So so here in Texas, you literally can feed. I think you can feed just about anything, to the native game animals, whether it be corn or in any mix of seeds and things of that nature.
And
a lot of places
through the season.
Yes,
like you don't have to stop.
Very good point.
And you can hunt within, visual distance. I mean, you don't have to be, like some states say, well, your bait has to be removed within X number of days, or something.
Right.
And then some say that or, you can have it there, but you can't hunt like within eyesight of the actual station or whatnot. Well, here it's basically, kind of do what you want.
Yep.
More or less.
No, and then you're exactly right. Yep. And so that's obviously one of the really nice freedoms that we have. So let's talk about some of the pros for being able to bait. And in this case, we'll talk about the white-tailed deer. Texas, I believe, has one of the biggest. It does, I think, have the biggest white-tailed deer herd in the entire, the entire United States. I also, now our deer are obviously there's multiple subspecies of the whitetail, so our deer are not the biggest. However, they are the most plentiful, and they typically tend to grow some pretty nice racks, and they grow these racks off of just in conditions where you wouldn't think that they really would. Some of these deer down South Texas get just absolutely enormous off of good genetics. Okay. We'll talk about that. But they also get really big off of their natural forage. Whereas a lot of these deer in Iowa and Illinois and all that, they get ginormous off of soybean crops and all that kind of stuff. So obviously South Texas, we don't really have that. So anyways, I'm getting off topic there, but I think the biggest pro for being able to hunt over bait in my mind is that it allows the hunter to make the absolute best decision when he or she is about to pull that trigger. That corn or the protein or the peas, whatever you're serving, okay. It'll sit there and it'll hold deer. It will allow you to observe all the body characteristics of a particular animal, its behavioral characteristics. Okay, for example, if you've got 10 does at your feeder, if you've got some mama does, that are in there and that are putting their ears back and flinging hooves, that those are probably your more mature does. All right, now think about trying to make a decision on what's a super mature doe with 10 deer out in front of you that's passing right by you. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more challenging. So whereas, here in Texas, we've got that gift to be able to select that animal and make a good shot. Moreover, again, with that bait, we can allow that targeted animal to get into a good spot where we don't have to rush a shot. Mm-hmm. All right. Or, we're not, it's the end of the season. We ain't got no meat in the freezer. We got to shoot, that's the great thing is that we don't have to necessarily take those kinds of shots because we've got the bait to hold them there.
Well, and, just being able to sit there and kind of study the animal.
Yes.
You mentioned that it does help you, select the right animal to take and everything. But
it does.
The implication of that is, you are actually in the long run helping out the herd by culling,
correct,
the lesser deer,
correct,
typically, and culling the deer, like you mentioned, that you need to cull. So for the future, that herd is that much stronger. So the argument is, by doing that, yes, it may seem like it's unfair to draw them in so that you can harvest them, but at the same time, you're doing them a favor.
Correct. Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you, it wasn't but 2 years ago where I had, talk about not fair. Let's bring up some instances where it was very fair and very humane. 2 years ago, I killed 2 deer that were all but pasture poodle bait within days. One of them somehow, I don't know how this happened still to this day, hit, if you look at a deer's hoof, okay, it's got those 2 little black hard things, right? And that's terrible scientific description there. Well, one of those little black hard things was missing. All right. So it was just raw, super infected meat. And oh God, and boy, it just reeked of bad cheese under a car hood in July. Wow, yeah, it was great. I did, my Scarlett was there and she was wanting to get some of that. I'm like, no, sir, no.
Can you imagine?
It was a good video. But again, the cool thing was that instead of this, and nature's nature, man. If a coyote or a mountain lion would have gotten to him, what are you going to do? Nature's freaking cruel. It happens. Mm-hmm. But I was able to put this deer down within seconds of seeing it and identifying that it was hurt. I had another deer that same year in January show up with a limp like I have never seen. Now, and I think we've talked about this before, deer are just like humans. Okay, they have cable, they have jobs, right? No, they don't. They don't floss, but they get lucky. Hurt. Yeah, no kidding. God, I hate flossing.
Some ways,
anyway, yeah. But they do get hurt. Okay, they'll trip. I mean, they're very agile creatures, but they do get hurt. And so you've got to be very cognizant of, okay, is this deer hurt or is he injured?
Right.
I've been wanting to use that forever.
Right.
That's what my football coach would say to me. And so this second deer that I saw was limping so bad that I just was like, man, this is not good. Another thing that I knew that he was in deep trouble. This was a buck, right? And this was late December, okay? And the antlers at Rancho Bandito do not start falling off until about, late January, February. This guy had already lost an antler. So I could tell that he was in deep trouble. So I went ahead and put him down. And sure enough, when I got up to him, his shoulder was completely broken. All right. Again, this bait called in this animal, and I was able to humanely put him down instead of being eaten alive. All right. Again, hey, it's nature, but again, the feeder allowed me to do that. 2 other arguments I will bring up for a feeder, and this actually you hear in a lot of the hunting shows, is that you have a lot of these hunting personalities. They're on the TV. They're like, well, we're down here in South Texas, and we're hunting along this Sendero, which is Sendero, of course. And they'll talk about the brush is so thick that you've got to have something to bring out these animals. It's not as though you have any trees to hang a tree stand in. So that's one of the arguments they use. I'd say to me, what's becoming very important to me though, as far as one of the big pros about being able to bait is for the kids. First of all, being able to have a bunch of wild animals out in front of your kids is invaluable. All right. To me, it's more important than seeing your first baseball game. Of course, if you're a big hunter, naturally, or a big wildlife enthusiast, it is a cool thing. And being able to have a bunch of animals out there and being able to show your girls or your boys, hey, look, this is what's going on. Oh, did you see that? Look at his antlers. Isn't he pretty? Look at those 2, goofing around. I think it's really cool. Okay. But when it comes down to that first shot, that first shot, just like when you're teaching them about the outdoors, you want it to be as perfect as humanly possible. So again, having bait is going to keep that deer within the distance. And again, allow you to put a good shot down. My best friend and my cameraman, I had the absolute privilege, something I'll never forget, mind you, of being in the blind for it was his first deer. It was a doe. And me and my buddy made the decision, okay, all right, this feeder is about 100 yards, but hey, wouldn't it be better? And he was practicing, he was deadly on paper at 100 yards. Wouldn't it be cool if we can get something like at 75, something of that nature? So what'd we do? The night before, we got a bag of corn, and we went out there, and we basically made a nice little trail of deers from the feeder to about 75 yards. And sure enough, guess where we took a picture the next morning? Yeah. Right at that 75-yard mark with a beautiful doe, and it's a picture that I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And when we sealed the deal with this kid. Since then, he's killed like five or six more. And when he becomes an adult, he is going to be a student of the game. He's going to buy stuff that's going to help, whitetail, help the deer species in general. I mean, it's a domino effect.
Yep.
So that's why I like baiting.
Well, and also part of that is, he was also able, and all kids, of course, but as just continuing his example, of sitting with his dad,
right.
And up until the point of him actually deciding to shoot, he was able to learn from the people he was sitting with and actually study the deer as well. So it's the education there, so it's not just good for the shooter, but it's also, the person that you're sitting in the blind with and teaching them, what to look for. And, you can really study those particular deer that way much, much better, so.
Right. Well, and let's talk about the whole, just the whole tradition thing. It's a rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend did it with his father. Unfortunately, his father passed away after we were in college. So unfortunately, his son never got to be with his grandfather, but, he got to be with me, and he got to be with his dad. And it's just a big deal, man.
Mm-hmm.
It is so cool. So, and again, I'm not saying that, somebody up in Iowa or, Wisconsin, I know that they can hunt over crops, but in areas where you can't hunt over anything baited, I'm not saying that, they're not going to have a great experience. They're going to experience all this kind of stuff. I just think, down here in Texas and in the areas where you can bait, it just gives you a higher success ratio.
Right.
There's
also that
bow and rifle.
Yeah. Well, there's also that aspect of, you mentioned it, you touched on it, the whole population question where you said, Texas is a huge deer population.
Yeah.
I think that probably goes as one of the biggest factors going hand in hand with being able to bait, and that, if you didn't and you forced everybody here to, not hunt that way, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Then you end up allowing the population to just explode beyond belief.
Yes.
Well, what's that going to do to the population in the long run?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be
tell you
terrible for the population. Right?
I'll tell you what it's going to be. It's going to be anthrax. It's going to be CWD. It's going to lead to that kind of stuff. I mean, hey, talk to the snow goose. All right. Talk to the snow goose. The snow goose was one of the greatest conservation stories of our time, human time. When you could say the wild turkey as well, but the snow goose was basically hunted to obliteration. Okay, there were virtually none of them left. All right, now there are so many damn snow geese because of Ducks Unlimited, because of Delta waterfowl, and just because of other rules and laws that were put in to bring this species back, that they're actually obliterating the Arctic now. So now they have a snow goose season where you can use no plug, all right, which is a big no-no. You can use electronic collars, which is a big no-no. I don't think you can use bait, but let me tell you this much: they're probably close to approving that as well, because it's just the snow goose population has just exploded, and obviously the Arctic is a big breeding ground for a lot of waterfowl, especially geese. So it's going to start, affecting the Canada geese, the speckle bellies, and anyways, it is a crazy thing. So yeah, overpopulation is definitely a bad thing. And especially here in Texas, we've got those super wet years. We're having one right now, but then we have those super dry years. And talk about eating yourself out of house and home. It's a scary thing. So,
right. All right. Well, I think there's one aspect of this whole hunting controversy that we haven't touched on, and we talked a lot about how baiting and everything, how it affects, say, deer themselves and whatnot, but we really hadn't talked about what about the whole I don't know kind of battle, if you will, internally amongst hunters about whether that is sporting. As far as being like you hear a lot about people that hunt in areas where you can't bait and this, that, and the other, and it's like, oh well, that's sitting in a deer blind with a feeder, that's not hunting, that's just blah blah blah, or you got to get out there and all this other stuff. All the arguments there, but
sure.
I think that's kind of the more touchy, if you will, subject,
agree.
because that one is internally amongst the hunters, internally amongst the hunting community, whereas maybe the baiting one, that could be internally, but it also has the aspect of the external, the whatever you want to call them, animal people and environmental people, all this type of stuff, But they don't really care so much of like whether you're sitting in a deer blind over a feeder or whether you can't do that.
Right.
You have to be out in the bush and hunt. That's more of an internal struggle there between hunters. So I mean, what are your thoughts there? Because I know people listening, some people are probably sitting there thinking, oh, I can't believe those boys in Texas, they can sit in a deer blind and hunt over a feeder.
Yeah.
What is that? So,
it's fantastic. I love it. No. Well, first and foremost, for real, listen, we are all hunters. At the end of the day, the venison hits the plate, and it really doesn't matter how it got there. Obviously, as long as it wasn't poached or it was a canned hunt or something of that nature. Okay, venison is venison. It tastes the same whether you shoot it at a feeder or you shoot it a million miles away after you've been tromping through the woods all day. So in my very humble opinion, I don't think hunters should squabble at all. We should take the fight to the idiots who want to try to, ban hunting in general. Those are the idiots that we need to fight, and spend our time, to find messing with. They're trying to take our passion and our heritage away from us. As far as the argument goes of, well, it's not very sporting. For me, I don't have I do. Let's put it this way: I don't practice nearly as much as I should. Okay, so I've been shooting for 1 billion years. I've killed a whole bunch of deer, even more hogs, tons of dove, and all that. But I don't consider myself to be, a very good shot because I don't practice as much as I should. So I'm not going to be super comfortable making a rush shot. That's not fair to me, and certainly not fair to the animal. And B, I like to be able to, again, to pick out the animal and take a shot, but there's also a C to this whole thing, and there's the whole meat aspect of it. Sure, I would love to be able to go to public land out in the Trans-Pecos. In fact, I'm actually going to be putting in for all the Texas public land draws after I get paid next.
Good luck.
Yeah, no, I've been doing it for like 6 years. And
now, if you win, do they let you take a friend?
Actually, some of them do, because some of them are like, yeah, you'll basically die if you don't have another friend out there. So, but the C factor for me is the whole meat aspect of it. Okay, sure, yeah, my wife and we could certainly go out there and we could just buy beef. And hey, believe me, the Kenchlow family is a huge supporter of the beef industry. We love beef, all right, but we also love to eat venison. So, and the same thing with the Byrne family. The Byrne family loves to eat venison, and the majority of our meat every year that we consume, our families, all right, is going to be all venison.
Yep.
All right, so we really don't have the luxury of going out there and just having one, just being able to harvest one or two deer. We need to shoot quite literally as many as we potentially can, so we can grind it up or do our deer steaks, do what we do to to feed our families. And again, yes, no, absolutely, we could go to the store and do that. And again, we do. We buy the steaks. We love them, but we also love the venison too, and that's what we primarily eat. I mean, at least once a week.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Speaking of, my freezer's getting a little precariously low.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I think I left Rancho Bandito when we did that big grind. Which, by the way, you realize it's been over a year since the disaster grind. We won't get into that. That was awful. God. But we did like what? We each got like 100, 120, 150 tubes.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost gone.
Yep.
I had like a handful.
I know it.
So again, we can't. So we're running out of meat. Here it is in July. We're already running out of meat. So, in conclusion, hunters should not fight. The venison tastes the same whether you killed it at 900 yards or at 75 yards. Whether he's eating natural forage, out there on in a ravine, or he's eating at a feeder. Right. That's my.
I'm with you. It's different styles for different folks.
There you go.
It is what it is. That's what makes the hunting world go round.
For sure.
You made a great point that don't let them divide and conquer us. We need to be, we're constantly being barraged by, ignorant people that, don't understand the benefit of hunting.
Right.
Not just to us personally, but to the environment and to the animals and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, so we need to be, together on, combating that ignorance,
no doubt.
Always going forward, and otherwise, there's no be anything left. So,
yep,
I agree. So so I'll see you in the deer blind.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But what's interesting? Oh, go ahead.
Now, excuse me. Listen, the last thing that baiting does, and this is pretty unique to Texas. Not saying that other states don't have a similar hog problem that we do, but Texas is absolutely overrun with hogs, and they literally do millions and millions and millions of dollars of damage. And these are farmers, okay, or these are cattle ranchers whose pastures are literally wiped out in the night. And this is people's livelihood, that we're talking about, and these hogs have done this. So, those feeders again, help bring in the pigs so that you can knock them out. And let me tell you, you will never be able to knock them all out. All right. It's the same thing with your raccoons. You sit there, you trap, you do all that kind of stuff, and they go away. It's the same thing with your coyotes. Okay. But they will be back. And it's the same thing with the pigs. But those feeders bring them in to where you can use your AR-15. Oh, watch out. Mr. Scary AR-15's here.
And you mean your assault rifle?
Oh, God. Whoa. End the podcast. You used a buzzword.
I'll have to put that E for explicit on this podcast now.
Yes, that's right. that actually would be fun. That's how panty wasted this society is getting. Anyway, different time for a different podcast. But no, but baiting allows you to bring all those piggies in there. I mean, let's face it. When we were at Rancho Bandito back in May, I think it was, we had a pretty good group of guys that were out turkey hunting, and we ended up probably 10 or 15 different places. We ended up counting about 65 piglets altogether. Piglets!
That's crazy.
All together. Okay, that was back in May. Those piglets are now teenagers, fertile age, okay? Then they're going to have children well before they're out of high school. And it becomes a big problem. So guess what? When we get the corn feeders fired back up at Rancho Bandito in October, it is going to be a pig palooza. We are going to be covered in hogs, and we have got to. I mean, we're laughing about, but it's true. We're going to have to get out there and absolutely thin them out, and it's a great thing because they're damn good to eat. So,
they say they could get pregnant twice a year.
Right.
Right. So you have to thin out something like 60% of the population every year just to keep the population in check.
Right.
Something like that. Well,
So
nuts.
I have a wild hog joke that I just thought of. What is the one occupation you will never see in the feral hog herd?
The one occupation you'll never see. Oh, geez, what?
A fertility doctor.
Wah.
Yeah, you like that because they're like oh, guess what? It's a boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. But they're always
right.
Us humans have such a hard time, reproducing, but the hogs, it's instant.
They just basically walk past each other and
instantly. Right. Yeah. Golly, that's crazy. Anyways, that's a good one. I hope our friend Tyson's listening to this because he loves my jokes. Well, you know what? I think that's a pretty good stopping point right there. Yeah. But it's the controversial topics are fun to talk about, and we'll do another one real soon. Maybe we can talk about the dreaded hyphens. Ooh, that's a spooky one. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So. Everyone listening out there, we'd love to hear what you think. Please shoot us an email. Let us know about do you agree, disagree with us, our views on baiting? What do you think of us down here, us Texans down here, hunting in deer blinds over feeders all year? I mean, we don't all do that, obviously. There's other ways that we hunt down here, but it is something that we can do. So, yeah. So let us know, what you think. We'd love to hear it. Email us at howdy@feedbandit.com and let us know. Also, let us know what you think about the controversy of sporting. Is it sporting or not? I'm curious about that as well. Don't hold back. Be very curious to hear what y'all have to say.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, I wanted to point out that we do have a pretty cool blog out there. It's pretty interesting. Where we went through all 50 states and basically pulled out what are the feeding regulations, or baiting regulations, if you will, in all 50 states. And it's actually pretty interesting, the differences between states and how they word things. Right. The little nuances about, when you can, when you can't, where you have to be versus where the bait is, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. It's pretty interesting, the diversity amongst the states as far as that goes. And you can get to that blog directly if you go to feedbandit.com/feeding. That's FEEDING, feeding, feedbandit.com/feeding. And it'll take you to that article, and you can look up a couple states, yours, if you've never really read the regulations in your state. You may just know them, but you may never actually read the actual words. Or, a couple states around you or whatnot, just to kind of see what they're all about. But other than that, yeah, that was an interesting one, a good one. Hopefully, we stir up a little controversy and get a little discussion going. So,
well, it's good to to review your facts. If you've got somebody who, if you've got somebody who's kind of on the fence, maybe about hunting in general, you lay out the facts of why you use a feeder, and if they're level headed, it makes sense, it's not as though you're tying them to a post,
right?
Type thing. And then unfortunately, there used to be a lot of that. I saw a video back in the early 90s of, I can't remember what it was. It was some idiot spent a lot of money and they released this bull elk who was like a 6x6 and was like 500 class type thing, and then shot him right there. I mean, just pathetic. And that
I would say that's probably not sporting. Oh, I think everyone would agree with that.
Yeah, well, I'd miss. I mean, I'd have to have him standing still. You want to release running.
Yeah, the buck fever would be.
Oh God, yeah, and that's the other reason why. See, I am all pro baiting because I get so worked up. It is just unbelievable that I couldn't make a rush shot if my life counted on. So, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, if there's anyone just real quick out there that is like passionately against it, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to come on the podcast. Let's have a discussion about it. It's always good to hear other sides. So let us know. howdy@feedbandit.com. All right, folks. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Just like what we always say, it's late summer. Those antlers are starting to finish out. A lot of, at least in Texas, a lot of them have already finished out. Velvet will be coming off here shortly, I believe, actually in East Texas. So, but then a lot of the parts of the states, in the country, we're starting to get some drought conditions. Keep that protein going. Remember, even though the bucks are maybe finished out and they got what they got, right? The does are still needing that added nutrition to help your future gigantic bucks, right? They may have little spots right now, but the healthier they are from the start, hopefully the healthier they'll maintain throughout their life. So, keep those mineral stations going, keep those protein stations going. And when you're going to buy that stuff, make sure you do it at your local feed store.
Perfect. There's your prescription from Dr. Corn Bandit.
That's right. I do have the signature for a doctor, but not the brain mush. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All righty, folks. Well, thanks for listening.
One last thing.
Oh,
we didn't do it the last time. We got to give a big shout out to one of our dear friends, Mr. Illini. We call him Illini because he's originally from Illinois. And we're all from Texas, so we give him HE double hockey sticks about that. But Illini, he's a great story. The guy was green. He didn't know a whole lot about hunting. He didn't know a whole lot about guns. The only thing he really knew a whole lot about was Texas Tech football and Bud Light Lime. But we have since exorcised the demons, and he's on the track to be a real good steward of the land. So he's been listening, and he loves it. So anyways, buddy, thanks for listening. Thanks for getting all your friends listening too. We appreciate it.
Well, you forgot Arsenal. You didn't bring.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah. Okay. So get ready for this. Now this might. He likes soccer. Yeah. I mean, come on. Anyway, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that like soccer, but he likes all sports. But he was talking about, the British Tucum carriers, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about, And like, we've been sitting here for 3 freaking hours and it's still 0-0. And why do they have all the advertising on the damn jerseys? What the hell is Air Emirates? Of course I do know what Air Emirates is now. And I'm like, aren't they over in Saudi Arabia? Anyway, we have a good time with him. So I'm actually going to see him tomorrow night.
Very good.
Good times.
If you're listening, J.I., I'll take another beer.
Yes.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. And
now we're really
done. We'll catch you on the next podcast. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Feed Bandit podcast. Just a reminder to text the word bandit to 345-345. And when you do, you'll join our email list where we'll send killer deals on innovative hunting products and services, along with entertaining tips and tricks straight to your inbox. You don't want to miss out. So again, text the word bandit to 345-345, and we look forward to seeing you on the hunt. Until next time, have a good one, and remember to support your local feed store.